there was this kind of euphoria in the dot-com era where everything's going to be digital and everything's going to be fast and everything's going to be free. And there was no payoff for that because the tech industry cannibalized the news industry in some way. But at the same time, the news media has refused to evolve and to change the way things are going, right? And it was a shrugging of the shoulders to say that, audiences don't want news, people are not consuming in the same way, but they kept forcing the same medicine down everyone's throat.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Your 2 Cents. For today, we're getting into an industry, a section that has a lot of activity in South Africa. That is the confluence of media with new media. That's the way I'm going to describe it, but we're going to unpack what all of that means right now. We've seen a rise in citizen journalism, at the same time, coming in with the fact that your traditional media houses are no longer where they used to be. We've seen a lot of people leaving that particular world, becoming independent, starting their own outfits or going purely freelance. And that's the discussion that we're going to be having for today, because there's a lot of people that are actually interested in this space, particularly young people. And for today, we are joined by Qaanitah Hunter, who is for today, she's wearing her Debrief Network hat, but she's a renowned journalist and someone that I used to, work with in the same organization once upon a time. But she struck out and, started something. We're going to talk about that. And we're just going to understand what's going on. So, Qaanitah, greetings to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a cool studio.
Very, very cool studio. And I think the studio is almost emblematic of where we are right now in this moment around, new media and all of that. I'm going to paint a picture.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into the discussion. I often tell people, some of these stats whenever they ask me to talk about what's happening in the media space. According to SANEF, which is the South African National Editors Forum, in 2010, you have roughly 10,000 professionals in the newsroom in South Africa. Just before COVID, that number has dropped to 4,500, which is a 55% attrition rate. When Daily Maverick is retrenching, I can't remember if it must have been in 24, somewhere there. I think they were cutting roughly 15 or so % of their workforce at the time. They give us an update, to say that they actually, by their estimates, the 55% attrition is actually closer now to 70% of people, that have left the newsroom. So the irony of that is that you have much smaller newsrooms, a smaller news industry, but you have people that are consuming way more, news media at the moment. So my question is just more about, based on that picture, and you've experienced a little bit, of all of this, if you are advising a young person, a good place for us to start is freelance or starting your own outfit.
Okay, so that's a complicated question, and I'm going to answer like a politician. But your picture does not point where we are now, which is the closure of City Press.
Yes.
Which is the sort of the big publications, big newsrooms getting smaller and smaller in South Africa every year. And so what you see here is that there was this kind of euphoria in the dot-com era where everything's going to be digital and everything's going to be fast and everything's going to be free. And there was no payoff for that because the tech industry cannibalized the news industry in some way. But at the same time, the news media has refused to evolve and to change the way things are going, right? And it was a shrugging of the shoulders to say that, you know, um, uh, uh, audiences don't want news, people are not consuming in the same way, but they kept forcing the same medicine down everyone's throat, right? So, what does that look like? It looks like complete and out of touch editors who don't live in real societies of where things happen. And so you'd read the lifestyle pages and you're like, where do these people live? And then an over obsession with newsmakers and with politicians. And so and then it became a thing of we speak down to you, we're not or at you, we're not speaking to you. And just think about why people don't watch television. Why do you not watch television in the way that you used to, probably, right? And so I used myself as a case study, and I said, okay, I grew up in media, news media. I was 17 when I started.
Wow.
I was obsessed on the time. I think I was 8 years old with news media, with newspapers. I pay for news. I subscribe. I watch. I read. I'm
You're inside.
I'm inside. I'm Banakant. But the point is, I was consuming less and less. Sundays would go by and I wouldn't purchase the newspaper as I would or read it. I wouldn't. To watch a primetime news bulletin became rare and rare and rare. And essentially, as someone who is so hooked up on the news, I started consuming less traditional or / professional journalism and inevitably consuming bite-sized information through social media, right? And I thought, okay, if I'm getting 80% of my news on the war in Gaza through social media, for example, fast forward 2 years, I'm getting at least 60 to 70% of my updates on the biggest commission at the moment, the Madlaga Commission, through social media. Now, this says something. What about the person who's not engaged? What about the person who is just overwhelmed by the news? And you have a huge phenomenon called news avoidance. Now, the thing about news avoidance, we can blame the politics of the day, we can blame the news of the day, but news avoidance also has there's some responsibility that we have to bear. Are we giving people things they don't want to hear? And in a way they're not comfortable with? Compound that with the fact that there is a whole generation where consumption of traditional / professional journalism is foreign to them. Go ask a matriculant, where do they get their news from? And they'll be like, huh?
What news?
What news? Right?
Okay,
and so you perpetuate. What we're doing is we're complaining and complaining and complaining. And what's happening is you just move from one retrenchment cycle to the next retrenchment cycle to the next retrenchment cycle.
Yeah.
Someone as long as me in the media industry, I've seen it all, right? This shutdown, this thing, this new excitement, this, that. And I realized, okay, there's two ways to do it. Remember, I come from politics and investigation.
Yeah.
That space is thriving. I'm very good at my job. I can go do this full time. But what am I doing? I am basically buying time until the next retrenchment cycle. And then, oopsie, you're unlucky and you're out of a job because they had to shrink newsrooms even further.
Yeah.
And that's when I took a decision about 2 years ago to say, I need to solve for what the future of journalism is, because I feel deeply for this industry. And, it frustrates me to no end, as it frustrates many professional journalists, that you do the hard work. You go to the mine, you go find this information, you piece together, you speak to family members in the middle of, I don't know, Garankuwa, somewhere far. And then a podcaster takes your headline, repurposes it, says it in the most amazing way, and gets 1 million views on that video.
Yeah.
And eventually can monetize it.
Yeah.
So newsrooms are frustrated by this phenomenon because news is expensive and people are not willing to pay for news. So my thing is, we can continue fighting and shouting. But if value is demonstrated, if people don't see value in your product, too bad, right? So now the question was, what do you do? And I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought about it and I said, okay, what if I go and upskill myself? Exactly the way I like to consume information. Is there a world where we can morph it with traditional journalism? Because that's the most important bit. Is that it's still boring. You still have to go get your 2 sources. You still have to go sit and read annual reports. You still have to, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah.
Boring things, right?
It's a tough slog.
Exactly. But now I'm going to write a 2,000 word piece article, and then you're gonna get mad at me because I'm gonna get mad at the world because nobody, like 200 people read that piece. When I can say, how can those same principles of good ethical storytelling be presented in a way people want? And that's just the mission that I've embarked on. And I don't even have the solution yet, but that's the guiding principle.
All right. So coming back to where I started, because my question was about, as young people, do they freelance or do they start something of their own? That's where I had started.
Okay.
But
sorry, I didn't answer that. Can I get you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So think about it, right? If you graduated, I get CVs every day. Honors, masters, graduate levels. Young journalists, right? The opportunities are getting less and less and less and less. So the first thing you need to do is you need to learn, not what school taught you. You need to be able to be multi-skilled. Meaning, you need to know how to use the camera. You need to know how to edit video. Those are your baseline skills. Before, if you were applying for a job as an editor, you need to know how to edit a video. If you were a presenter, all you need to know, when I started in TV years ago, all you needed to do was show up. And there was 5 people enabling it. It doesn't exist anymore. So the first thing you have to do is find opportunity. Second, don't be married to a medium.
Okay, yeah.
And
100%.
third, you have to brand your type of storytelling in a very particular way. So then what does that look like? Do you start your own outfit or do you freelance? The thing is, starting your outfit takes money and it takes years. It takes years and years and years to build a viable audience to monetize. Also, for many of us who are good at journalism, we are not good at business. But whether you are freelancing or whether you are working in a traditional media house or for a media company, or whether you start something for yourself, there's baselines in terms of setting a minimum framework for development of your career, not your job. Whatever your job is just what you're doing today. But essentially, you need to have a clear path of these are the things that I need to achieve in terms of my career, right? The second part of it is you have to upskill. What they teach you in journalism school, ChatGPT, cloud, any of these things can do at least 60 to 70% of what you were trained to do. So what you need to do is you need to finesse a particular skill set. So this is how I like to see it. You need to know all skills, and then you need to get better at one or two particular distinguishing factors. So for example, if you are really good at video, you're not going to be really good at writing, but you need to know how to write, and you need to know how to do video, and you need to know sound, and you need to know good interviewing skills, so you have to finesse every element and to get you a point to say, I'm actually really good at camera and I'm going to pay attention to finessing my presenting skills or finessing my storytelling skills or whatever it may be. But the point is, the temptation for everyone to kind of hook up a mic and a camera and just talk because we see success in that, people get a lot of success in that, is not going to build a viable long-form career for you, right? Because it's based on a fickle thing. It's based on a fickle thing of whether people like you or not, right? And so you can use that to your advantage, that content creation ecosystem. But what you can rubber stamp on that is thorough traditional journalism, professional journalism, where you're able to actually find information, where you're actually able to give people something new?
The question I have, and especially because we're talking about this industry specifically, is the question of, if we're locating this discussion around the evolution of journalism specifically,
Yeah.
because if I'm understanding your line of argument, it's that there's new media.
Right.
You need to go to where people are
Yes.
and then overlay some of those traditional the traditional tenets, not necessarily the traditional approaches, but the traditional tenets of making sure that you've got the right sources, you're verifying information, all of that stuff, right? But my question, especially for people that are either starting out or those that have come into the space, realize that it's not as rosy and are now thinking the career question, right? There's a credibility aspect that needs to also be tackled inside there, right? Qaanitah's been in the industry for a while. When you break away and decide that either you're going to freelance or you're going to start something of your own, there's a Qaanitah name that is coming
Yes.
with. But if someone is starting out or someone is still relatively new, to the game, even if they overlay a lot of the things that you're talking about, I'm just wondering, is there still a world where a person is still almost forced to go and attach themselves to a traditional outfit, get that credibility before they can then parlay it into something of their own?
I think I don't have the answer to that because we're figuring it out as we go, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the advantage of sort of starting off in a newsroom is learning the discipline that comes with it, and learning through observing, right? When you are on your own, when you're a one-man team, I see it with some of the freelancers we work with, the very young people, is that you're not aware of mistakes because you're not in an environment where you can learn from others. So you perpetuate the same mistakes because it's just you and your phone and your laptop, right? And so what I think then is mentorship is super important. But you can find that mentorship inside or outside of a traditional newsroom, right? So I think mentorship is your first bit. Second is you have to have a keep learning approach. So if year one you are focusing on like, I don't know, just getting your articles out there and pitching it to as many people as possible, at the same time you have to be learning how to use Canva or creative skills where you can say, okay, when I file a story, I'm also filing it with graphics, I'm also filing it with visual representations. I'm just saying hypothetically, right? So it's that parallel learnings that have to happen. And then the third part of it is that whether or not you come from a traditional outfit or you're starting on your own or whatever, you have to pay attention to building a brand, but not in that way that that kind of like cheesy way that
I was about to say, not necessarily an influencer brand.
Yeah, but also the question that I ask people is why must people watch this podcast? Why? There's so much on the internet with people's attention span being so low. What is the draw card? Why must I listen to you telling me about Iran? You have to build that level of trust, and that's by demonstration. And it also comes with rinse and repeat. There's no cheating your way out of just doing things as many times as possible to get better and to trust the process. So when I say building a brand, I'm saying you try to demonstrate to your audience the value that you are giving them. And that's amazing. That's incredible. And think about people who consume I watch a lot of podcasts from like professors in the wellness space, right? So those professors versus the influencers. So the professors, their podcasts probably get like 20 or 30,000 hits, whereas your pop wellness podcasters get like so much more, right? But the point is, there's a demonstration of value,
Yeah.
and eventually that pays off for you, and it can pay off in many different ways. So there's no one size fits all because opportunities are not the same. Starting something off yourself for yourself is a long, hard slog,
Yeah.
right? You may not even have all the tools you need. But the point is that if that's the way that I don't think we have the luxury of saying either or. I'm only going to, I remember when, I don't know, when did you get into a newsroom? There used to be like these old journalists who used to do like one singular, if they write about mining, they only write about iron ore. Like, do you know how what a luxury it is to be that level of a specialist, right?
Yeah.
And I try to do that with my career, to be like, I'm just going to hyper focus on party politics and be the expert. And it paid off for me for a while because being a content expert helps. But it takes years to get there. And also it's a moving landscape.
Yes.
And so now I have to learn how to visual hooks. That's what I spend my time thinking about. Also, I have to think about pitching to companies and trying to be sustainable and all of these things that I never had to think about before. But my message is this, is that find people who have done this and bully them into mentoring you. Secondly, take your ego out of the room.
Yes,
and say what does a slog require from me? Okay, I need to learn how to do, I don't know how to do Excel spreadsheets. I hate it. Learn it. And then the third part of it is, there's no cheating your way to credibility. And so you want to tell a story about a community, sitting here and raving about, and this is my main concern with the young kids, is that you want to express an opinion based on what?
Feelings.
Vibes. Right? And that's why there's no longevity in it. Where you like, oh, I do this. I put out this podcast. I put out this thing every week. It's your opinion. Who are you? Remember, like when I started in journalism, to become an opinion maker, you had to be writing for 10, 15, 20 years before they can say, okay, come to the thought leadership. Because you come with a huge amount of experience, life experience, etc., that guides you in shifting and crafting opinion, right? And still now, till today, I feel like I'm underqualified in some of the stuff that I opine about, because you don't know everything.
Yeah.
And so just do the hard slog every day. And you just rinse and repeat. And every day must be better than yesterday.
Before I move on, I do need to touch on something that you said. I 100% identify with what you're saying. My speciality is I cover technology, media, and telecoms companies. Right? But
which means, okay, let's take this. If people consume 5 or 6 pieces of content holistically, right? You have to be so, you know how niche. So if your audience is 10, right? 10 people only consume 5 or 6 pieces, right?
Yeah.
In your 10, the amount of people that actually open up your publication on that day and then find the thing that you write about and then are interested in the thing you write about, it gets whittled and whittled and whittled. Not because your work is not great, but because of where it's so specific, which is so amazing, but then it's not finding the people who would be interested in that, because what we're doing is just shooting in the dark.
Yeah, 100%.
I interrupted you.
Yeah, first I agree with the point that you've just made. But what I was gonna say is that one of the tough slogs, that's been introduced now is that back in the day, a person could do exactly what you were talking about. And I see it with some of the really well-resourced publications globally,
Yeah.
right? Where I have to cover all of technology, media, and telecoms. But in the heyday,
Yeah.
you'd have one person just covering telecoms, one person just covering media,
Not even only
one
covering
cover
telecoms, just MTN, the MTN reporter.
I was about to say that but with even more resources, you go even
Yeah.
more granular,
Yeah.
than that. Where if a company is big enough, right? I always think of there's a guy called Mark Gurnham. He's a reporter for Bloomberg. He just reports on Apple. That's all this guy does,
Tico.
right? He has a newsletter. He's become an authority, very
Yeah.
popular and very well regarded. But all he does, right? He's a technology. He knows technology, but his main source of authority is that he reports on Apple, just Apple, on its own. So there's probably some of that's been lost. That the amount of granularity that people can get into is no longer what it used to be back in the day. But I want to shift to something that you were now talking about just now, where you were talking about now a big part of your role is pitching to companies and all of this stuff. The Debrief Network,
Yeah.
what does that entity look like right now?
Yeah.
Where are you trying to take it?
Okay, so it's the reason why I have like dark bags under my eyes. But so, okay, I was one of those arrogant people that said I would never ever start an outfit of my own.
So you've dealt with this question
Where-
big time. This one of whether to start something.
No, it was a huge conundrum for me.
Okay.
Right? I'll tell you why, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the problem that I was unemployable. I still had job options, which I'm very grateful for.
Yes.
But it's job options that what it was going to box me to do one specific thing, go and cover politics, right? And then when you're tired of me and when you feel like my sources are washed out, which is probably going to happen, then what's going to happen to this, right? Number two is I am a mad person, right? so flirting with job security was something I was able to do. And I don't have school fees of children to pay. So I was, in the sense, I'm being silly, but I'm saying I had a lot more flexibility than most people had, right? But I'm also madly married to the future of journalism and its sustainability. Why? Because I worked in newsroom management and I realized this 1 + 1 is not 2 here. Something's not giving, right? So when I started thinking about, kind of going the independent route, what does that look like? I was very stubborn about two things.
Okay.
One, this is not going to be the Qaanitah Hunter show. Why? The Qaanitah Hunter show, first of all, I'm not that charismatic, right? So,
Debatable.
no, but I mean, like, the second part of it is, what value are you going to give by simply, me, Qaanitah Hunter, by simply talking to a camera, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm bemoaning the fact that journalism is on the decline.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do to help propel journalism? Right? So that was the first thinking.
Yeah.
The second thinking, which meant that this has to sit outside of me.
Yeah.
This needs to be a viable entity on its own.
Yeah.
The second part
With
of
or
it,
without Qaanitah.
yes.
Yeah.
The second part of it is I do a lot of consulting for media houses. Why? Because I am one of the few people, and I'm very grateful to be in this position, that have the expertise of being a content specialist, which is in politics, but also enough experience in the industry to be able to plug into stuff around innovation, leadership, all of these other areas, right? So you go into these newsrooms, or you speak to, and I also spend a lot of time in my career to advocacy, whether it's mental health, so I was prime positioned to say, okay, I'm seeing a consistent problem whether it's the most resourced media house or the least resourced media house,
Yep.
I'm seeing a consistent problem. And that is the traditional way of doing journalism is too expensive. To have a cameraman, a producer, a script writer, there was a time when we used to go out to shoots where there was one guy whose only job was the sound. That was the heyday, you understand? And so then I realized that somebody needs to start experimenting with what journalism needs to look like. But traditional media houses don't have that appetite for risk to say, let's throw everything in the kitchen sink and learn as we go along.
Yeah.
Right? So I would pitch to the big media house to say, what if we take all of the content that you have and repurpose it in this way? Again, the skills don't exist internally in the media, and what they're seeing is dollar signs. This is going to cost too much, right? So then I went and I said, okay, what if we take Debrief Network as the first part, just being solving for what I think is how news is being consumed, and attach the principles of traditional journalism onto that. And the second part of it is let it serve as a R&D, so research and development, for what I think is going to be the blueprint of how all media houses operate. Right? I did it so reluctantly because I've seen big new media startups in the world not work.
Vox. BuzzFeed.
Yeah. Why? Because there's something that, as we criticize traditional newsrooms and the old school way of doing things, there's something about having formal structure of boring, money-wasting journalism that still has to happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Setting up structures, and again, the internet economy is cannibalistic. So you can't even rely on your YouTube income to pay for the studio set. Right? So nobody has found the business model, right? Which means there's less and less appetite to experiment because where are you going to get your money from? So I said, okay, if I was not religious, I would have been a gambler. But the point is, what do I have to lose? Right? Well, my peace of mind, but that's another story. But the point was that, okay, let's find people who are looking for opportunities that are not going to get these opportunities in traditional newsrooms. Let's start pioneering a new way of storytelling. And let's see if we can bottle those learnings and sell it to other people while you're building an audience at the same time. So the Debrief Network was an experiment, and again, I did it reluctantly, and before I knew it, it was already something too big because we're 1 year in now for me to walk away from. So, it's that awkward moment where you're like, okay, you've put in too much and now it just has to work. And I still believe that corporates, big companies, they know the value of real journalism. They know what South Africa would have been like had it not been for the journalism of the state capture era. They know. They're living in Johannesburg where there's so little original journalism done in terms of, there was a time when I remember applying for a job at the Star newspaper. There was 26 reporters only covering the Joburg Metro. If you have 5 holistically across the whole media ecosystem covering the Joburg Metro, that would be too much, right? And so corporates need to see the value in news media and an informed citizenry and the importance of what it is, with the role it plays for democracy. And they don't have to be married to a medium. They need to understand that investment in these experiments is an investment in democracy, anyways.
Yeah.
And so it has been a hard slog because it takes money. Everything takes money. So the model that I have is I freelance, I consult, and then I pour money down this drain. There were many times where I thought this is madness. This is hella madness.
Yeah.
When I say I gambled with my pension, right? But I'm seeing growing appetite, and for me, it's fulfilling me in the best way because we're taking graduates or people with almost no journalistic experience, and I'm giving them this almost atrocious expectation that this is what you'll do. You'll find a story, you will reach out for the story, you'll pitch the story, you'll shoot it yourself, you'll present it yourself, you'll edit it yourself, you'll produce it yourself. Everything, you one person.
Yeah.
Right? I remember when I came to a newsroom that you were working in, and people are looking at me like, are you cuckoo? Right? But the point is that it's there anyways. Content creators are making viable income because of this model of using technology to enable storytelling in a way that is not so cumbersome, right? And so I believe that there's going to be some blesser that's watching this podcast
Hello, blesser.
and believes in the vision.
Yeah.
But I think that you can't preach something if you don't have skin in the game. And
Yes.
that was why forming Debrief was me saying, I need to have skin in the game.
All right. I want to pick your brain on a couple of things.
Yeah.
Because so much of today's conversation has been around business models and, that type of thing. One of the ways that it's not even new, but it's just that this is, it's how video production outfits have run, over the years, photography studios, etc. But we see more of that with the types of networks that you've created, where a person creates a platform, but that platform is almost manned by freelancers.
Yeah.
Because we're now discussing the economics.
Yeah.
You have a set of freelancers that flex up or down depending on what needs to be done. Of course, in the old paradigm, you would have your one reporter being followed by one camera guy,
Yeah.
a sound person, a producer, etc. So you could flex it up or down. For this one, we just want a cameraman. For this one, we want the full, 10-man entourage. But now you're saying, okay, let's try and get all of these skills into one person.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm interested to know is, what have you found that doing for cost? Does it mean you still rely, let's say, on that old, we staff the platform with freelancers model? Or does the fact that you can have all of these skills being in one person mean it's a little bit more possible for you to have more people actually being staff on the platform?
So there's two sides to this,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The first side is the gig economy is where we're all at.
Yes.
Right? Go speak to an HR practitioner. There's no jobs in HR. You have to create a consulting firm and get micro clients, and that's how you become you have 5 clients instead of working for one company.
Yeah.
So it's happening whether we like it or not.
Yes.
Right? So when it comes to why did I say Debrief Network,
Yes.
is exactly that. I want to create eventually to say there will be 4 long form shows that we produce, but now remember, all of these things require competencies.
Yes.
Right? And for now, those competencies are too expensive. To produce a show, it's going to cost me 50,000 Rand, hypothetically.
Yes.
Right? If I start from the baseline and equip people ground up, right, to say one and there's nothing. I'm not saying that there's no value in having a dedicated camera person and a dedicated producer and a dedicated. What I'm saying is that in the quick turning of consumption of information, there's no value on premium anymore.
Yes.
So the idea is there has to be quick turnaround through professional journalism in a way that is, and so the kind of one-stop shop, what I call a news creator, right, which is different to what a journalist used to be, where you have all of these other skills, is to compensate for the redundancy that AI and job cuts have brought in. You understand?
Yeah.
So if you went to an ANC press conference and you wrote an article and you went to the press conference, you recorded, you came back, you ingested the sound, you transcribed for 2 hours, and then you wrote your column, you're already redundant. So your question is twofold. Creating a platform which will allow for the gig economy to thrive.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So my idea is Monday to Thursday, I want to have a show every day in long form.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but
Yeah.
we're getting there. We tried and we fail and we try and you fail and you try and you fail. But again, the luxury of being able to do that, whereas if it was a big newsroom, they'll throw money at a problem and, oh, nobody's watching. Okay, can the show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I want to say something controversial a little bit later, but
Let's
but
do it.
then so that imperative still exists. I think to be a platform for talent to come with some ecosystem of support. Whereas if you had, yes, anybody can open a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but the idea is you're not going to be supported in the way, right? And so I see people like Sizwe also kind of moving on beyond it just being him on his platform
Yes.
to expand. MacG did it really well
Yeah.
in the entertainment space, where you now have a network because the learnings can be replicated,
Yes.
the income can be multiplied, because it's kind of just figuring out. And that's why content studios, big corporations, that's why you had your Warner Brothers and whatever back in the day, right? So that's the one part of it. But when you're solving for the journalism part of it, that is where I feel like the luxury of these kind of expensive pieces of journalism that is losing its premium. So I see it like this: your long form, you have your premium products, and then which sit in the, I don't know, give me a brand, the Gucci of journalism. And then you
Yes.
also need to have the sheen of journalism. The thing, the quick consume.
The high turning,
Yes.
high volume, yes.
And-
Low cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, the sheen of journalism is the toxic opinion, rage baiting. And I feel like there's a sweet spot in between.
Okay.
So Debrief Network is currently a spaza shop, but we are going to become Woolworths very soon. Woolworths hit us out for a sponsorship.
That's actually an interesting one. I like that. The other thought I'm here to pick your brain on is you mentioned corporates
Yeah.
earlier on. I've also thought about corporates, and I wonder, do you appeal to, let's say, corporates across the board, or do you maybe target corporates within a certain niche, right? So, for example, if in corporate news,
Yeah.
right, it's in your interest as a corporate
Yeah.
to ensure that there are credible and knowledgeable people reporting on your company,
Yes.
because it has implications on investor sentiment and
Yeah.
all of this stuff, right? So I can see that as maybe a carrot.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm questioning is whether appealing to, because I 100% agree with you that corporates do understand the fact that good journalism is good for the country.
And
But
good for their pockets.
And good for their pockets. But I just wonder, when it comes to specifically being good for their pockets, whether that broad agenda is enough to entice someone to come and to your platform, or do you almost have to be more specific where there's a direct line to them and their business in terms of
But they've done that, right? So think about like your Investex, your big banks, whatever. They'll be like, oh, we're spending this amount of money on doing this internally produced podcast. Then how many people watch? 6,000, right? Why? Because it's self-aggrandize. What is the word?
Aggrandizing,
Yeah, where you just like, it's navel gazing. It's stupid, right? Whereas the idea of, the old school idea of like you sponsor the front page of the Sunday Times, for example, right? That came at a premium. There is a translation of that in this digital new media ecosystem.
Yeah.
Where you attaching yourself to people who are spending money and time to tell stories, and you're not really bothered about the fact that what they produce, but it's the principle that you're buying in, which is good quality journalism, right?
Yeah.
And what most companies are being silly about is that they're waiting for the platform, the personality to pop off, not realizing that it takes years to build an audience. And you don't actually want overnight success because that's easy come, easy go, right? But the steady incline to build, to innovate, to create, to all of these things takes time and money. And it's cheaper than what you're spending in traditional media that you're getting very little for in return anyways.
Yes.
So make the gamble in the interest of informed citizenry, right? Which is why I believe that the debrief model must be replicated, because then essentially we are solving the problem that we're creating inventory for advertising, for support, for all of these things based on good, sound principles. Do you get me?
Yes.
So I think you have to show, not tell.
Yeah.
And say like, okay, this is what a show. I mean, we piloted something called Mind Your Business, which is like the intersection. I say if Top Billing had a PhD, the intersection of life, business, and popular culture.
Yeah.
Right. So you're talking about the business, the money of matcha.
Yeah.
There is a stupid idea to pilot, but the point was to say, we can't keep doing the same things over and over and over. Your audience doesn't want it. Yeah. And if there's no audiences in that, then why is they putting ad spend behind these like big expensive TV productions if that's not how audience is consuming things, right? And so innovation needs not only one singular innovator. It's an ecosystem that has to be created. Yeah. And so the idea is, this show must be housed on Debrief Network.
Come on. I see your pitch.
But because I was able to build a viable network that says you only focus on what you're good at and the infrastructure is already built. That's the plan. Where's the blessers?
All right. 2 more things before we let you go. The first one is it's a combination of where we started the conversation around the breakdown in the economics around news, and secondly is drawing on your experience as an entrepreneur.
Oh, I hate that word.
Yeah, but that's what you're doing.
I'm a journalist.
You're enterprising. but I do get it, and you did mention it just now that a lot of the time journalists just wants to do journalism as opposed to the business, side of things. One of my long-running theses at the moment is that pure play media on its own is challenged, and that the media that is succeeding, at least on a business level, is media that is either attached to something else or in service of another entity. If we're talking pure news, a good example is Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best resourced news outlets in the world. But news is not their business.
Yeah.
Their business is the Bloomberg terminal, right? The news is a product
Nice to
off the
have.
off the terminal,
Yeah.
and a way to draw attention to the
Yeah.
fact that you can get all this and more
Yeah.
if you pay
Yeah.
to have a terminal. If you're a central banker, if you're someone who's in government, a policy maker, fund
Yeah.
manager, an investor, a trader, there's no better source of information
Yeah.
than this. And then the new stuff is just theater to get people to. And then I think about what people call the FANGs,
Yeah.
right? Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. All of them are in the media business.
Yeah.
But Netflix is the only one that is
Producing.
media.
Yeah.
Everything else, Apple has Apple Music and Apple TV and all, but it's also that we buy iPhones,
Yeah.
right? Same with Amazon Prime, same with all of these guys. It's in service of something. So those guys are willing to take a bet. It's almost a marketing spend. You're not really in it to make, as long as it's driving sales on that other side. Can't you hear your thoughts on my thesis?
that was literally my premise of why I was like, I will not start a media company because it's giving money to tickheads. It's giving money to drug addicts. The news business. It's like, I would much rather go in Cape Town and give but again, it's in service of something bigger, right? So for me, I understand that to say, whoever believes news, and like, that's what I'm saying, Debrief, if it sits on its own, if it's too much of a money spin, like a drain,
draw,
then to what it will ever, in the best case scenario, ever make. For now, it's hinged on a consulting business, right? Yes. And this is a micro entity, right? It's micro. But what is it for MTN to say, hey, let us, we are invested in the South African story. Let's acquire a news media, this thing that operates entirely within the and services their customer base anyways, right? And you have this dynamic partnership that exists. You understand?
Yeah.
Think about...
Never thought about it like that, but yes.
No, but think about it like this. This is me giving away my whole game plan, but where's MTN? Call me. No, but I'm thinking about it like this, right? They use all sorts of things to draw customers, right? They use music, they use games, they use content. Think about the super apps, right? The VodaPay, the MTN tried it with Ayoba, all of those kind of incentivized, where you bring people into your platform, right? So the idea is that I understand news can be controversial because it can be bad for business when we are reporting on you or reporting on your competitor. But what I'm saying is that there is a world where we cannot sit and say, okay, let's just kill all media houses, right? Where entities like that, in the service of their own customer, in the service of their own pockets, to say, here's a value add. The value add is a bouquet of amazing, incredible content that is just not us singing MTN praises, because that's what they currently do in their marketing departments, right? But to say, let's support this media outfit brought to you by MTN. And so it's your bread and butter sorted, right? But you're able to play in that space of innovation, right? And so I think that some people have seen the value in this, but I do think that you're either going to see a shift in your NGO type of newsrooms, but that too has waned because there's not that much of philanthropic dollars anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that model is struggling, right? My idea is this: you build an outfit in a bigger outfit, so that the people that are focused on the producing of content, the producing of news, and playing that role of a watchdog only have to focus on that.
Yeah.
And that there's a bigger ecosystem that supports everything else.
Mm.
However, Amazon bought Washington Post, and there's been
some activity.
yeah.
We've even seen, I guess, some people have noted even a slant, like where they were on certain issues back in the day versus where they are now. Yeah,
But
I
that is
get you.
that is that boring thing of the rich and powerful saying, I have a media outfit, I'm going to leverage it for myself. And people are just going to be like, I don't want to have a Jeff Bezos mouthpiece. I'm not going to pay for it. So you understand? So it's bad. It's bad maths. But I wanna, and I know we have to wrap, but I want to talk about something that when you asked that question around the big company.
Yeah.
So obviously in South Africa we have Naspers, right? And then you have very successful news brands like News 24 and then you had Arena Group, and you have the individual publications, right?
Yeah.
So the latest news is that City Press is probably going to shut down.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what did City Press do? What did they do with City Press? And I'm saying this with vested interest because I'm a person that have loved City Press, right? It was like my dream job to work at City Press,
All right.
right? But also, having worked in that ecosystem, I sit and I watch it, and I have like, it's like a sucker punch in my stomach to be like, you're shutting this entity down, right? With so much of history and so much of such an important role. Like I think about like Jackson and Mthembu saying, "Don't buy City Press, don't buy," like back in the Zuma era, right? But played such an important role for democracy without any consideration of the vacuum that will be left by it, right? But when dreamers like me talk, the numbers people are rolling their eyes and say the maths is not mathsing.
Yeah, the maths is not
right?
mathsing, yeah.
But what if there is, and if you say you're shutting down this investment, right, in this medium, as it were, but you're keeping an equal investment in journalism in a new format? Why does it have to be either or? We do journalism in a boring, money-sucking, redundant way, or we don't do it at all.
So are you saying, let's take, instead of just shutting the whole City Press brand down,
Yeah.
can we transfer some of that brand equity into
No, I don't think there's brand equity in it,
new
and
platforms?
maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
In the sense that, like, I think young kids or like are not married to like the Sunday Times as they used to.
Okay.
But I'm saying the model of saying we're going to take a newspaper and we're going to put it on the internet, and you're getting upset that people are not buying, is a stupid model. That's what all media houses did, right? I'm saying here is a room to build something from scratch, right, into the new image of what
I see what you're saying.
but with the infrastructure of that 100 years of learning. Do you get what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, yeah. Okay. So you're literally taking the fact that you've got the experience, you've got the capital, you've got the knowledge.
Yeah.
Let's just start something new.
Without the baggage.
The baggage of what was happening.
And the failures.
In the past.
Yeah.
And that almost is... such an entity is better placed than the discussion we're having earlier on about the young person who just
because
gets into this independently because they almost have nothing.
There's no support.
Okay, yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I get you.
So think about costing, right? What it used to be to produce a newspaper versus what it takes now to produce 4 or 5 compelling shows, right? It's a fraction of that cost. But what these big media houses, what they're not willing to do is to say it doesn't have to look like that. It can look it can look like what's how people are consuming now, but there's a lag time from investment to pay off, and you have to see that lag time out.
Yes.
And nobody wants to take that risk of saying, let's build up from scratch. If City Press could have been repurposed in a beautifully dynamic digital platform, if there was not this insistence of taking a print product exactly how print was, exactly why people, the model in which why people were not buying your paper anyways, and putting it online and saying, pay for it here online.
Yeah, I see what
No.
you're saying. Yeah. It's often something that I talk about a lot of the time, especially now that there's AI. I often
Yeah.
tell people that implementing AI or coming in with an AI system is not going to fix the fundamentals in a business.
100%.
Right. A bad system is still just going to be a bad system. You're just automating a really bad system.
Yeah.
Okay. So, last thing to end us off for today. Given your journey, and given where we need to be now, and you've almost touched on a piece of it, especially around the upskilling piece, to say that if you're getting into the industry or if you're already in the industry as a young person, these are the things that you need to do. You need to know everything, but maybe then after you've learned everything, go down a little bit deeper on one or two, specific areas. The business knowledge piece. How have you attacked that part? Because as we spoke earlier on, whether you're starting your own entity or whether you're freelancing, you almost have to be business minded. How have you gone about that, for yourself?
It's been very hard because let me tell you, I'm one of those people that believe money is not a real construct. It's a
Are we
made,
imagining it?
It's a made up thing. Like I have no attachment to money. I'm like just like it's a tool. It pays my bills or it doesn't pay my bills. And I'm saying, imagine how pompous you must be to be that way. To just be like, oh, what is money when it cost an arm and a leg? So I think what I had to do is first inculcate a lot of self-discipline. Secondly, find out where my mistakes were. My mistakes was not in acquiring money. I was able to do the slog. What do I need to do? But what I couldn't do and what I struggle with is with compounding that with you understand? So I can make a buck if I need a buck. I can't make a buck if I already have a buck.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And when you're running a business, you cannot go from hand to mouth. You can't go from zero every month. There needs to be some level of sustainability. So I think I've done 3 things. One is I have really good friends who are really like very, very good business minded people. And what I do is I trauma dump on them at least once a month. One of my friends who's an amazing person. She works at at Diskim's Innovation Lab, Bigly, Alia. What I do is I just phone her and I throw all my problems at her. And then we talk about other things. And then over the course of several conversations,
it percolates.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what if you do this? What if you do that? What if you do that? I have to now deal with, like, my problem today is I have to come up with an HR solution. I know nothing about HR, but there's always people who know. So tap onto your network. But more importantly, I think find people who failed and go to them. And then the third thing is, which I have not figured out, is find partners that can help you. So, for example, if you're just a normal freelancer, there has to be someone who's like a tax guy. Don't like, know your limitations. Know that you're gonna get screwed over. So find people that can plug in for your own deficiencies. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But more importantly, I think this for me is a call to action to whoever's watching this, is to say, you're not alone. Find community. Reach out to me. Reach out to you. We all learned, like, we all made mistakes. I make mistakes every day. And so I am grateful for the people who give me of their time to say, okay, don't do this, don't do this. And I'm still learning every single day. But I think that by being open and vulnerable to say, I have this problem, who can help me with it, has been a superpower that I didn't realize. And now I'm seeing the benefits of that.
Okay. All right. I think on that note, that's where we end of today's discussion. on that vulnerable note, it has been a really great discussion just talking to Qaanitah about what's happening in the industry. As we said, it's a hugely important industry. And one of the big things that she was just talking about is this thought that she's been refining over the years about some of the problems that are being faced by traditional media and how to improve on that particular model. And she says that a lot of it hinges on understanding where people are at, and then getting people where they're at, coming to them in the ways that they're used to consuming things, but now overlaying some of those groundings of journalism. That's what she's been able to try and do with Debrief Network. We got a sense of how Debrief Network came about.
The messy process.
Yes, the messy process. It's been a year, but she says she really struggled, for quite some time, because she had vowed that she would never start, something like this. But, yet here we are. And a big part of that platform is that she's saying she wants to create a network, where you can actually attract talent, in the gig economy that actually comes in, with skills. You're able to impart skills, but then those same people that are coming into the network can also impart their skills into the rest of the network, and then you co-create and then you grow, from that point of view. Also getting a sense of the economics, of this entire space. That's the whole reason why we are here. To begin with, the place of corporates, the place of people. How do people upskill themselves? What type of learnings has she taken? And I think at the end there, she gave us, 3 very key things that she's done. Firstly, she spoke about the fact that you need to tap into your network and always have, people that you can, she calls it trauma dumping. Right, but then there's people that she can go out into. She looks for people that have failed, people that have tried these things, to actually go out and do that. And then she was also then talking to us about the fact that you also need to have people that are good within the specific areas that you lack in, and then those people are actually gonna help you, to make all of that happen. And then I think just the last thing, overarching, you really need to be passionate. I think
And
passion,
a bit delusional.
Funny enough, this delusion discussion, we could have it. Me and my friends always talk about the fact that, especially in sports, your LeBron James, your Kobe Bryant, especially, and your Michael, there's a certain of delusion you need to have to be like, I'm going to be the best in the world, and then I'm going to put, so delusion isn't always a bad thing, and you need a touch of it to be able to dream beyond the current reality. So it has been a really great sense. Thank you for sharing your 2 cents with us. We've been in conversation with Qaanitah Hunter. For today, she was talking to us as a founder of the Debrief Network.